Welcome to Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. He's Tom Albano. I'm Nick Morgasen. Follow us on social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow us on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Make sure you follow our website, etbpodcast.com, with a bunch of content from the world of sports and entertainment and a bunch of other things as well. And if you want to listen to us on audio platforms, we are available on every single podcasting platform you can think of. We're on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts. We're basically everywhere. So make sure you go check us out on there as well.
Before you do anything, I have to do this, it seems like every week. Because you said Twitter again.
Oh, I said Twitter. You're right. Sorry. I should have said X. I'm always going to call it Twitter forever.
I know. I think I gave up on that when I was doing the MMA Outsider shorts this week.
But behind the curtain again, because this has now happened for like the 10 millionth time. So
this network is cursed. Let me put it to you this way. This network is cursed. Although maybe I'm kind of happy that the curse happened this week.
Well, yeah, because unfortunately we had another story leading the way. But this week, I think we had a good fortune of a curse, if that makes any sense.
Yes, so let me just go through the stories like do our traditional thing. So we're going to talk a lot of football. We're going to talk, some stuff off the field too. So we're going to talk this whole Kelce Swift relationship. We're going to talk about Usher being the headliner for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Joe Namath voicing his opinion on one Zach Wilson and a quarterback move that the Jets made in practical response. Quarterbacks getting injured all across the National Football League. The Commanders being sued, yes, sued, by a group that wants to rename it back to the Redskins.
Yeah, because that makes total sense.
Oh, and then we have the Thursday Night Football game of this week, because of course we do.
Yeah, so... And obviously the big story of this week, because we can't do anything without a mess happening, is Damian Lillard. This is breaking the day that we're recording this. Damian Lillard, the Portland Trail Blazers trade Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks.
What? So here's basically what has happened in terms of our behind-the-scenes stuff. We were going to talk some baseball as the postseason is around the corner, and the NBA basically, what they decided to do is they did that little trick, where you're reeling somebody in, and the middle finger is going up and saying, "Yeah, no, you're out of here," because we need to get our spotlight in here. Damian Lillard, probably one of the biggest stars in the National Basketball Association today, who has been the subject of trade rumors for what feels like forever now, at least a season or two. And we had all this talk earlier this year about, he's trying to force his way into Miami. And I think he does just as good, if not better, going to the Milwaukee Bucks, who are not far removed, 2 seasons removed from their NBA championship.
Yeah, I mean, I said this to Tom before we started in pre-show meetings that basically, everyone's going to say, well, Milwaukee's a genius because they traded for Dame Lillard and to go with Giannis. No. And I'm going to explain this to NBA fans. The bigger, better NBA fans will understand this. The ones who are kind of just follow their teams and that, all jazz and that stuff. Basically, what happened was they needed to satisfy Giannis. And that's kind of what happened here. And by the way, I forgot to say, we have a great guest coming up that's going to talk about this as well, because it wouldn't be an NBA topic without this guest. And actually, he's on our network and does a show called The 3&D. So I think without further ado, let's bring in Paul Lombardi for The 3&D so we can break the trade down. Paul?
What's going on, guys? Happy to be on.
Yeah, Paul. Thank you for coming on some really short circumstances, but obviously the whole world, the whole basketball world has just gone absolutely. Well, it's been flipped upon its head with the fact that Damian Lillard is now on the Bucks, and I think my first question to you is just, what are your thoughts on this? Because how the hell did this happen?
Yeah, it was absolutely crazy. Not something that I expected. I was saying on the show the last couple of weeks too that like this trade and the Harden trade are probably going to be two things that just come out of the blue. That we're just going to randomly get a Woj notification that they're going to some random team. That's exactly what happened with Lillard. Um, it was absolutely crazy just because I just always going to picture Damian Lillard as a Portland Trailblazer. I feel like I was in denial too with his trade demands that I really couldn't picture him on another team. But I think that this is a really good fit. It was a very interesting trade though on the Trailblazers part. I thought that they didn't get like almost anything back. They ended up getting 1 first-round pick back. Rudy Gobert ended up costing the Timberwolves 5 first-round picks. So when you want to compare the two of those, it makes it a lot more interesting. But man, this was absolutely crazy. I was shocked, and I didn't even know that the Bucks were in the race. We had been hearing the rumors about the Heat. We had been hearing the rumors about the Raptors over the last couple of days that they were like on like the 1 yard line or something like that within a trade. But it's the Bucks coming out of nowhere, and it's insane.
Well, let's go to the other part of this equation. If you had to take the temperature of Miami Heat fans right about now, how do you, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being cold and 10 being Miami Heat hot, how hot would you say that Miami fans are right about now?
Oh, they're easily a 15, probably. I think Jimmy Butler's reaction and Tyler Hero's reactions kind of spoke for themselves. I mean, Jimmy Butler kind of went on the mic and was saying that like the Bucks should. I think he was saying it jokingly, but like there was a little bit of sore loser in it. The way that he was saying it kind of went on Twitter and was just like the Bucks need to be looked at for tampering.
Oh, please.
And then Tyler Hero responded back, and he like agreed with Jimmy Butler. I assume that it was a joke. I assume that it was like Jimmy Butler's attempt at trying to be funny throughout the entire situation, but like
not the first time from Jimmy either.
Exactly.
No, and here's my response, Jimmy. I forgot to laugh. That was so funny.
I mean,
literally.
I mean, the way this deal falls, there are so many moving pieces in this deal. They had to go find a third team. I'll tell you why they had to go find a third team. No team was willing to pay the price that Portland was putting out there. There was some rumors and speculations that they wanted a star player plus 3 first-round picks. That was like the original, which, by the way, is too much for Damian Lillard right now.
Yeah, they were never going to get that. They were never going to get that was the bottom line. And I think that part of it, too, they kind of settled. This trade, though, was probably better than anything that Miami was giving them. I mean, they were definitely talking to Miami about it. And there was apparently the Bucks offered them this trade. The Suns jumped in on it. And they never even brought the Heat back into the loop. They didn't go back to the Heat and say, like, this is what the Bucks offered us. You need to match this.
Yeah, apparently Pat Riley just like didn't even hear back. They were just completely out on it at that point.
But you know what? I respect it because at the same time, Miami stuck to the guns and said, hey, we're not negotiating against ourselves, which is a big thing that happens in today's sports world. Why would I negotiate against myself if I know that Dame has already come out and said, I want to be in Miami. This is where I want to be. He did those dumb Instagram live videos basically saying he wanted to be in Miami. I'm not negotiating against myself. That's insane. So Miami basically said, all right, here's the deal. Either take it or leave it. And I think I was hearing it earlier today from somebody basically that you're going to get a dumb team that was going to offer more just for the sake of doing it. And that's what happened.
It's exactly what happened. And I think that the big thing, too, that kind of was holding them back was that the Blazers were demanding Tyler Hero. And I think that the Heat were really reluctant on doing that. Which
I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's that good.
I personally would have done that. Like if it was Tyler Hero and a couple of first round picks to get Damian Lillard, I would have pulled the trigger if I was Pat Riley. But they stuck to it. They didn't necessarily want to do that. So I found that really interesting. And I also found it really interesting how the Bucks, what they gave to the Trailblazers was seemingly the best offer, and it almost seemed like it wasn't that great of an offer.
And then all these other teams you heard, Toronto, which was like the flavor of the month for 2 days.
Yeah.
Then you had Brooklyn, which, by the way, Brooklyn had 0% chance of landing him whatsoever. So whoever threw Brooklyn in the mix, the only reason they were thrown in the mix is because they got KD and they got Kyrie and they have star potential in Brooklyn. That's the only reason why they were thrown out there. But I don't know. Dame's request, and the other weird thing as well, was that he didn't want to piss off the fan base in Portland. That's why he didn't go out there and destroy them and try to throw them under a bus. Dame, you threw them under the bus when you requested to be traded to Miami, right?
No, you know when he threw them under the bus when he was on Instagram Live singing about wanting to go to Miami.
That's what that was what I was originally talking about. Like Paul and I talked about that for weeks about the Instagram videos. He was playing his cards, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm a huge Damian Lillard fan. Always have been. I love Damian Lillard, but the way he went about the entire demanding the Miami thing was just a bad look. And I feel like it looks even worse when that's not where he ended up going. So,
well, yeah, I will refer back to another thing you and I discussed, I think on the 3&D, you and I discussed this basically, that the whole agent situation when he basically was threatening, his agent was threatening other teams, basically saying, well, if you trade for him, he's definitely not going to play there. And if you remember, Silver and the commissioner's office threatened him with a fine and a suspension if he didn't stop.
Yeah, exactly. And that's and it completely makes sense because it's completely against like all the CBA stuff that they had just implemented and everything that was going on too. The players weren't allowed to be that vocal about a team that they didn't play for. And he was kind of crossing that line. He was tiptoeing that line a little bit, which I thought was really interesting how he kind of like was going about it. And it was very un-Damian Lillard like. When you saw him throughout his career and like kind of sticking with Portland and stuff, you always kind of thought that that was like his number one priority. But eventually, things changed. So I thought that was an interesting part for sure.
The way I also see, I almost see it as a reverse tampering against himself. Yeah. Like he's like, oh well, I'm just going to say where I'm going to go, and that's it. That's literally what he did. He reverse tampered on himself, saying I'm not going anywhere. But the other thing is, we got to talk about the whole Giannis thing partially because I don't know how long ago it was, Paul. You might have a better memory of it than I do. I think it was a couple of months ago that he spoke out basically to the open media and said that I don't know if I want to continue playing here anymore because the ownership doesn't care about me and what I want to do. And this was clear desperation, right?
Oh, absolutely. That was 100% the reason why the Bucks probably offered more than any other team was willing to offer. And I think it's because it's very coincidental that Giannis came out like I think like a month or two ago, like you were saying, and was very uncommittal about his future with Milwaukee. His contract is up. I think he's got 2 years left on his contract. Then he's a free agent, and he wasn't agreeing to sign like another Supermax deal just yet. He wanted to see what the franchise did. So he was putting a lot of pressure on the Bucks that if you want to keep him around for like the long haul, and if you want to like figure out a way to keep him in a Bucks uniform for his entire career, you kind of had to do this, which had to have been a tough decision for Milwaukee.
You're also forgetting the big number on the salary, $60+ million a year. That made it harder for teams. And Paul, you know this, but Tom, I've explained this to you a million times, and I've said this a million times
about making the money match.
Yes, people forget that in the NBA, you have to match the salaries between each side. That's why so many contracts and players were traded from one side to the other, and they needed the third team because they would not have had the necessary money to match up cap-wise.
Yeah. That's the only reason why a guy like Drew Holiday gets traded in this kind of a trade, and why DeAndre Ayton gets traded. I mean, the Suns were also shopping DeAndre Ayton a little bit, so that could be part of the reason. But like Drew Holiday gets dealt to the Blazers, not because the Blazers want Drew Holiday. It's because he's getting paid about $40 million or something like that, like something crazy, and they need to be able to match the contracts at least somewhat reasonably. And DeAndre Ayton too just signed that big extension with the Suns, so he's getting paid huge. So if Lillard is leaving the Trailblazers, one player from both the Suns and the Bucks have to be leaving that's getting paid close to what he's getting paid,
which is hard to really fathom math-wise. Now, the other thing I'll ask is, well, now that they have Giannis and they have Dame and I don't know why I always Paul. Who's the second guy on the Bucks? Who I always forget. Chris Middleton. I don't know. I keep forgetting him because people forget that he's on the roster because he keeps getting hurt.
Yep,
but
exactly.
So, do you see Milwaukee somehow becoming a magic destination all of a sudden? Is this a big three?
This is definitely a big three. I would say Middleton, Giannis, and Damian Lillard. I would definitely consider a big three. Mainly because Middleton's been an all-star. He had a lot of injuries last year and was pretty irrelevant for the most part, but he was a huge member of that championship team. They just re-signed him to another 3-year extension. And between those three guys, I mean, they're getting paid ridiculous money. Like Lillard is getting paid that, I think about $60 million over like the next couple of years. I think Giannis is about 50 to 60. And then Chris Middleton's contract extension that he just got was like right around 40. So between those three guys, they almost have no salary cap or besides those three guys too.
It's basically going to be a Celtics situation all over again when they had Garnett, Pierce, and Allen. They basically brought in veterans minimums. Or in Miami, same thing with Wade, Bosh, and LeBron. They basically were giving veterans minimums, and it was anyone who said, "Hi, I want to win a title. Let me play."
But you know, also like that's the name of the game too. I mean, we see so many teams in the NBA doing that, where you have three guys who are star players or something getting paid ridiculous money, and then you have a bunch of guys who are in their mid-30s, late 30s that want to be bench players for a ring that's on the veteran minimum. You know, Milwaukee's just going to become that kind of place now as well.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I was telling Tom beforehand, you weren't here yet, Paul, but my hot take is that Milwaukee does not work out with this situation and the chemistry. What's the big thing? Chemistry.
Yep. I definitely think it could take even if it's not this year, I definitely think it could take a year or two. You know, it definitely could. And at that point, Lillard's in his mid-30s. So it will be interesting to see how, I mean, between them and the Suns are the two teams that have the ability to just run away with this thing if everything is clicking, but also have the ability to be a huge letdown if things don't go right.
Also, the Giannis injuries. People are forgetting about that also. Like that's the reason they didn't go far in the playoffs because those I think it was the back injuries, right? I mean, if he's healthy, again, fallacy of a predetermined outcome. I use that phrase all the time. But if he's healthy, they're probably the ones that go further, not Miami.
No, absolutely. And I mean, Milwaukee with the way that they were building stuff too, like you could arguably completely healthy that they had the best roster in the Eastern Conference, you know, last year. So it's another interesting thing that it's like, I feel like every single preseason we always go, if healthy, and it stinks that you kind of have to do that because there's obviously, you know, you never know who's actually going to stay healthy, but that's honestly what it is, what it comes down to.
Now, I know on the preview show, which we did this past Monday, we talked about the Bucks, and I think we had them as, a 2? I think you, Ben, and I basically agreed that it was a 2 in the Eastern Conference. Does this make them a 1? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, they could be a 1. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a 1, but again, you see a lot of times the team that, you know, the super team and stuff like that doesn't end up getting the 1. You see a team that's just able to stay healthy, like the Nuggets 2 years ago, we'll say. they ended up winning the championship last year, but like 2 years ago, they were the number 1 seed. There was several other powerhouses in the West that were probably better than them, but they stayed relatively healthy and were the most consistent and were able to be the number 1 seed. So I think that, the Bucks' likelihood at being a 1 seed probably isn't that high, but if everyone's healthy come playoff time, it may not even matter.
Okay, I'll finish it. Go ahead, Tom.
I was gonna say just a couple things for you. I kind of feel a little bad with Drew Holiday, a life comes at you fast kind of situation. That one day after he says, "Oh, I want to be a Buck for life," he ends up getting dealt here. And the thing is, and I'll just transition over to this part of it. There's a chance that he's probably going to get flipped again because he got the Trailblazers discussing with possible other teams that could be in the mix for somebody like a Drew Holiday. And I was actually just going through on my phone about potential landing spots for Drew Holiday, that all the chaos that could be coming in. They're talking about the Sixers potentially being a spot.
Miami.
The Lakers, Miami, the Celtics, and then good old New York, James Dolan land being a potential spot. Because
don't say that. It will happen now.
I know it's going to happen. Well, look, you can blame the New York Post if it happens because that's what I'm reading it from.
It's actually funny. Once the trade happened, too, I was talking to one of my buddies who's also a Knicks fan, and we were talking about if that even could be a possibility that the Knicks could bring in Drew Holiday. And the reality of it is it wouldn't make any sense as far as that goes. So rest assured, Knicks fans, I don't even think it would be possible to get that. We'd have to probably trade like 3 of the guys. We'd probably have to trade like Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, all those guys, which wouldn't even make any sense.
Nope.
But like you said, the Heat are an interesting team, but the Lakers are also an interesting team. I would be interested to see how that would work, like what a trade would look like if the Lakers wanted him.
That's a good one. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I like that one a lot, Tom. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I'm kind of curious as to not so much him being there and making a difference, but in that, like you said, what kind of monstrosity kind of trade would that have to be to get him there?
Yeah, what kind of what they can even afford to put together that would bring him there. That would be interesting.
And then I guess just also make mention, the Suns pieces that they got: Jusuf Nurkic, Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson. Obviously, the Suns had to be in there because, again, we talk about Damian and his contract, his massive contract, and trying to make the money work. What do you make of what the Suns got out of this?
I think the Suns actually did a great job because they signed after the Bradley Beal deal. They signed like 5 or 6 veteran guys to come off their bench, which were all pretty solid signings, as you see, like the super teams always do. Like they signed a bunch of guys to veteran minimums, but I thought that this trade was really good because all they gave up practically was DeAndre Ayton, and you swap him and Nurkic. So now Nurkic is your starting center, which if healthy, I mean, Nurkic has had a lot of injury issues over the last several years, but if healthy, I don't think he's an extreme downgrade over DeAndre Ayton. I think that Ayton is a better player, but I don't think is that big of a downgrade. And then you got Grayson Allen, Nasir Little, who are both decent role players that can come off the bench. Keon Johnson is more of a young third-year player that's kind of like probably will play in their G League for the majority of the season since he's going to be on like a super team now. But I actually like that move for the Suns, and all they really gave up was Tumani Kamara, who they just drafted this year, who was like a second-round pick, and DeAndre Ayton.
I mean, so I'll end it on this. Basically, the Milwaukee Bucks will be what?
The Milwaukee Bucks, my thought on it right now will be probably a 2 or 3 seed. I'm going to agree with you that they probably don't land the number 1. They may have some injuries. They may have some chemistry issues. And they're not going to be NBA champions this season. If it happens, I think it may take like a couple of seasons or so, get like the core together and get some chemistry going. Very rarely we see a super team like this formed like 3 weeks before the season starts and they immediately win an NBA championship. That like almost never happens. So I'm going to say that Eastern Conference Finals, maybe pushing a series, but probably not even NBA Finals. I still like the Celtics or possibly the Heat to still come out of the East this year.
I mean, even with the Heat not really improving the roster, I mean, another year with Jimmy Butler in Miami, I think we'll do good. But I don't know. We've seen Jimmy Butler destroy franchises in the past. Minnesota, to name one, Philadelphia. Even though I will say that if Jimmy Butler was still in Philadelphia, they might have won a title already. I will go on that front. I think they would have won. I think they would have won at least one if he was still in Philadelphia. But I don't know. Big deal, big trade. Paul hosts the 3&D on the ETV network Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm sure you'll break this trade down even more on the Damian Lillard front. You got which previews coming up? Which divisions coming up?
We're going to have the Southeast and the Northwest. We're going to be doing next episode. So we got the Hawks. We'll have the Heat. We'll have the Trailblazers. We just did the Bucks this past week. Would have been a perfect timing if we were able to hold them off to next week, but it's all right. We'll still have a decent amount of interesting teams this upcoming week.
Yeah, as the NBA season gets ready to be in gear, I think it's a month away ish from now. So
just under a month. I think about like 20 days.
So looking forward. Well, you and I, Paul, NBA season. That's like our nerd out session season. So Paul, thanks for coming on and talking about the trade, and you'll be back during the NBA season.
Of course, always here. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. All right, so that was Paul Lombardi from the 3&D. We break it down the Lillard trade. Wow. That was interesting.
A lot to think about, but I kind of see the point. I kind of agree with you guys that I only would have the Bucks at this point as a 2 or 3. I think they're definitely a top team, but and I think I've talked about this recently. The idea is that the Eastern Conference being, we always talk for years about the Western Conference being the dominant, East the East being so weak that teams with losing records can make it. And those dynamics over the last couple of seasons have swapped. The East is now an absolute beast where you've got Milwaukee, even before the Lillard trade. You have Boston and Philadelphia. You have the Knicks showing strides. The Nets. Think about this with the Nets. Obviously the KD, Kyrie era over, but when they traded them away, they still managed to make the playoffs. So the East has just the Heat, of course. There's just so much that could come out of the East that it's like just adding Damian Lillard to this conference now is massive. It's nuts. And obviously Portland will end up in the doldrums of the basement now with this deal. Miami they will go through their own little process, if you will. There's no trust the process in Portland right now. They're more like survive the process right now. But looking at the top of the Eastern Conference for a second, Philadelphia, which was they're a dumpster fire. James Harden is not coming in to play, so they're going to drop. And even if he does come into play, it's going to take him. Why? Because I was going to do that. Damn it! He beat me to it. But yeah, Philadelphia is going to be a dumpster fire. Miami is missing some of their key role players who signed with other teams that played really well all the way through the finals. So the Celtics will be the 1 seed. I think the Bucks will be a 2 seed, and then it's kind of a wild card. Pick your choice for the rest of the conference after that. But all right, let's transition into the other parts of the world of sports. Where are we heading? Yeah, so we're gonna go now to the NFL. The second half of the show will surround the National Football League. Like I said, some of it's a little bit of off the field kind of newsiness. And well, Nick, we are not a pop culture show. However, Taylor Swift recently had another blank space, and she wrote Travis Kelce's name in it.
Emotional damage.
Yes, I heard the joke you made. Yes, I heard it. Are you just gonna keep disappearing?
No, I think you and I were clicking at the same. I thought you were clicking to prevent me from coming back in.
No. But yes, I know everyone's making that joke. You're like the millionth and one person that's gonna keep saying blank space for Travis Kelce.
Well, okay, let me change it up. Is Travis Kelce boyfriend number 22 for Taylor Swift?
Pretty much. I mean, it's not. 100% confirmed. I mean, they were kind of putting on a little bit of a show in the locker room after the game for Peyton's son or whatever from Miami, the Miami legend.
Peyton's son, yes.
And who the hell? Apparently, they disappeared into a getaway car, so to speak, after the game. And like you see, for people who didn't know, if you don't know, you're under a rock during NFL Sunday. But the Chiefs were playing the Bears at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, and Taylor Swift shows up in the Kelce suite with his mom and the family, and all of a sudden you hear Taylor Swift say, "Let's fucking go!" when Kelce scores the touchdown.
Which, by the way, I never thought I would ever see Taylor Swift. You couldn't really hear, but he just mouthed the word.
Oh, you could see it.
I know you can.
And by the way, the most meaningless touchdown that Travis Kelce was ever going to have.
Let's be real. You know, as much as some of us may want to dump on this story because it's pop culture, distracting. This story is a lot more entertaining than the game that was actually played. With the Chiefs and Bears, it was such a blowout that Fox changed the game at halftime.
Well, they removed the game off the affiliates. But
yes.
My point is that it was 41-0 at one point. And Yo Gabba Gabbert was in the game. Well, Mahomes got hurt, which I'm sure everyone was breathing a sigh of collective relief that he wasn't hurt, because that's pretty much that would be the end of their season if he was hurt. But,
oh, man. That would change the whole season for the NFL on a dime.
But you see Taylor Swift in the suite, apparently drinking away and eating and like screaming, and she probably knows nothing about football, to be honest.
Well, you know what? Now that all the Swifties are catching on, I mean, Travis Kelce's jersey numbers went up dramatically. Think about all the bank he's making now. I mean, he was already going to be making bank before, and now.
Gee, I wonder why the jersey sales went up. You want to take a guess?
I wonder. But now that the Swifties are all of a sudden, more of them are involved in football, you're seeing you're seeing a couple of social media posts that it's like explaining the rules of football. So now we're going to get more people into football, which, I mean, good for the game.
You know what, though? This is going to be a terrible hot take. But you know what I have to say to the Swiftie fans?
You need to shut the fuck up.
Oh, you didn't even give me time to give the danger alarm for the hot take.
Fine, I'll say it again. Hey, Swifties, you know what you need to do?
You need to shut the fuck up.
Oh.
I'm so tired of this because, oh my God, Taylor Swift was at Arrowhead Stadium. Oh my God, Dove Kleeman reported that Taylor Swift's going to be at MetLife Stadium for Monday Night Football.
Sunday Night Football.
I mean, Sunday Night Football, whatever.
So, in other words, okay, you know what? Since you're talking about Sunday Night Football, and you guys on Football Friday will get to this on Friday afternoon, but you're basically telling the Swifties that they need to
RELAX.
For a change, I actually agree with that. That's rare, too.
It's just too bad that it's not going to be Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers on Sunday night.
I mean, I think the spread for that game already is like 9.5 or 10. I think. But
I mean, listen. Hopefully, all goes well. I find it funny that Taylor Swift actually has taken up a couple of NFL headlines because it was during the summer the rumors were spreading that she was going to be named the Super Bowl halftime show host, and she turned it down. Who knows? Maybe she actually does show up at halftime for the Super Bowl this season. But here's my question. How long is this Kelce Swift relationship actually going to last?
That's a good question. I really don't know. Her relationships really don't last very long. That's kind of on the record. We're not making that up by any means.
And if that's the case, is Kelce going to get a song about him?
Oh, if they break up?
Yes.
Totally. Yes. I don't know. I mean, if you're not careful and this is done, it could be a cruel summer.
Well, I guess you were allowed one for the sake of me giving one. Yeah, but you know what? I'll still do this. All right. That is going to do it for Nick Morgasen on the. Oh.
I mean,
All
I'm
right.
just tired of people making this a massive headline. Just let it go.
So, do you think this is going to end up being a distraction of sorts?
Absolutely, this will be a distraction. How can Taylor Swift not be a distraction?
But the reason I asked that is just because it seemed like everyone in the Chiefs is just having fun with it. You have Patrick Mahomes remarking about it, and even he was kind of in the dark a little bit about what he knew and such. Andy Reid, which I'm sorry, Andy Reid has one of the best senses of humor as a NFL coach, saying, "Oh, I introduced the two of them," and then just walking out of the press conference.
Yes, and they talked about this on what's the name of their podcast again? I forgot what it's called, but by the
Kelce brothers one.
By the way, they've climbed so fast on the charts for podcasting that it's almost not fair. They're literally, I think they're the top podcast on Apple now, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, it's success, instant success. And I was like, oh, good. That's what I want to hear. I can't even find it at the moment. I'm trying to find the podcast, but
I just called it the Kelce Brothers podcast.
Oh, it's called New Heights.
New Heights, yeah.
And in one of the promos, it shows
Jason Kelce saying, "Oh, hey, Taylor put you on the map."
Yes, which was probably one of the funniest things I ever saw. By the way,
2 Super Bowl rings you have with Patrick Mahomes. No,
it's Taylor Swift. And by the way, this is going to be a horrible take, and Swifties might come after me for it, but this feels like a little bit of PR clout chasing.
Really?
That's what it feels like. And I put a clip up from on our TikTok account of Taylor Swift saying, "Let's fucking go" through the glass. And I literally wrote in the description, I'm like, is this a PR clout situation? And like there clearly was some Swifties in the comments section of that TikTok video. What do you mean PR or clout? What do you mean? It's Taylor Swift.
Yeah, but that was my question, though. It's Taylor Swift.
No, but I'm talking about him. Forget Taylor Swift. But
all right,
I don't know.
Let's get off of this one because I don't want to be TMZ for too long. I mean, we could transition to one of two things now because we brought both of these up: the Super Bowl halftime show and the Jets. Let's go to the halftime show. Yeah, anyway. So Taylor Swift is not going to be it, but it will be Usher. So Usher will be the headlining act for Super Bowl LVIII's halftime show presented by Apple Music. Apple Music releasing a parody ad of that
Kim Kardashian.
Yeah. Well, they have the parody of Usher say, no, stop playing with me. Stop playing with me.
You know what that ad was?
Just become best friends. Yep.
Oh, not that one. Oops. You know what? Maybe that too. What I meant to say was
on crack.
Because that's what the ad felt like. Like, oh yeah, let's just use Kim Kardashian for clout to announce that Usher is the Super Bowl halftime show. Yeah. Good job. You're telling me Usher didn't have enough clout on his own to be the Super Bowl halftime show? They had to get Kim K to say, no, really, you're the Super Bowl halftime show.
Well, I mean, Nick, I like Usher. I feel like this is just going to be the continuation of the Super Bowl halftime show making me feel old.
Well, that too.
Let's be real. Usher was in our prime of childhood, where you have songs like "Yeah" dropping, where you have was it DJ's Got Me? Was that him? DJ Got Me Falling in Love Again?
It might have been, but wasn't there what was that song? I Don't Mind also?
I Don't Mind.
Yeah, the Usher song I Don't Mind. That was done with Juicy J. That's that really catchy song.
Oh, I should be correct. DJ Got Us Falling in Love.
Yeah, that's it. But I know, like, and the other issue is, like, it used to be at the Pepsi halftime show, so, like, it was more controlled. Or not more controlled, there was more open flexibility. Now that Apple Music is the exclusive sponsor of the halftime show, it's going to be whatever is popular on the Apple Music charts. Yay!
Great, Apple.
So guess what? You're gonna get the next big influencer who decides to be a music star.
Oh God! And then I'm gonna feel old even more when I look at the Super Bowl halftime act and I say, "Who?"
I've already done that enough times already. I'm like, who's this? Who's this influencer that has like 5 names and whatever?
All right, moving off of that one, Nick. Let's talk about your Jets. So there's 2 sides to this story. Number one, you have Joe Namath, the legend, going off about Zach Wilson. Apparently, he's fed up. And in a bit of, I can't say breaking news, but developing news ever since we had our meeting on Monday night, the Jets have decided, despite Robert Saleh previously saying that they were not going to add to the quarterback room, they have added to the quarterback room. They have added Trevor Siemian, the former Broncos quarterback.
Well, there's only one thing that could really sum this up right about now.
Oh, hold on a minute. You didn't tell me you were going to do this. Where is it? Good shade of green. There it is. Where is it? Oh. You might as well just let it play out.
I mean, because they are quite literally a circus right now. I mean,
Jets country, take flight.
I mean, quite literally. I mean, by the way, props to Joe Namath for going on the Michael K show and just totally obliterating Zach Wilson, and on top of it saying, you know what? The Jets should trade him.
Here's the problem with that. Now, I get the sentiment because I know people are, good Zach Wilson, good Zach. Here's the problem with the cut. He's still on his rookie deal. You still owe him another year. So guess what? If you cut him, regardless if he's around or not, you are paying that money.
Oh,
so,
I was going to say there was another problem.
You suck.
And he has no value. Yes, he has no value. So right now, you're screwed. So now you're going to be stuck with him. Oh, by the way, Trevor Siemian's really going to be your answer?
Hell no. This is the Jets being defiant because they don't want to admit that their whole season was built around Aaron Rodgers. Their offensive coordinator was for Aaron Rodgers. Their playbook was for Aaron Rodgers. The ownership was all for Aaron Rodgers. The fans were for Aaron Rodgers. The stadium was for Aaron Rodgers. The sponsors were for Aaron Rodgers. Okay, do I have to keep going on and on and on? It's the same thing. Everything was for Aaron Rodgers. Okay?
Yep. Exactly.
And as soon as 4 plays in, when what was that word they used to for his injury that I kept saying they were using?
I don't know, but I just call him that he turned into Fred the Fish.
Well, okay. Or the fillet of fish from the McDonald's commercial. But it was just one of those things where it was just like, this makes no sense. And you're not going to trade him. So Namath, you can forget about that. And I had to go to Johnny's defense from Game On the other day because, like he was saying, and he's right. Do you know the last time Trevor Siemian took a snap?
Like the 2020 season?
2017.
It was 2017? It has been that long? Well, was he involved with the AAF and the XFL in the recent time?
Not to my knowledge, no.
I feel like I could have sworn he was, but
the last time he played was in Denver. Remember when he was part of that whole fiasco with, I think it was with Tebow and Manning and Brock Osweiler.
Okay. So here's the history that's happened since 17. 2018, he was a member of the Vikings. He actually was on the Jets in 2019, but I don't think he ever really played a snap. 2020, he was on the off-season or practice squad for the Titans, then went to the Saints for a couple of years. The Bears last year. He was part of the Bengals in the off-season or practice squad of this year that got cut, and now he's back with the Jets. I remember when you talked about 2017. Remember when he was supposed to be the one to take the reins from Peyton Manning after he retired out on top after the Broncos won Super Bowl?
That was bad. That was very bad. And then he disappeared. And that was the end of him.
And here's my other issue with it. Because we're talking about how he hasn't really been involved in meaningful plays and such since 2017. And I'm not saying this in any sort of defense about him, but the other big story going around involving the Jets is J. Cole, the rapper, released the letter that Colin Kaepernick wrote to the Jets about joining their practice squad. And you and I think it was last week, Nick, we sat here and said he has not played since 2016. He's been not played in 7 years. So, controversy and media frenzy aside, that stuff aside, it wouldn't be a smart signing just because he hasn't played in so long. So you're going to, as I just said, sign a guy who hasn't played a meaningful snap since 2017. Bravo! Yeah, genius! Genius!
Yeah, well...
Look at all the failure!
I mean, this whole organization is a failure. And I told you that the Rodgers move from day one, that basically they should have never signed him. He's a 39-year-old quarterback that was rotting away like a corpse. And basically, we'll take a shot on Aaron Rodgers. We'll win. We're going to win a Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, well, 4 plays in, he gets hurt. Zach Wilson to the rescue. Not really. And like I was starting to say before, I had to go to Johnny's defense because like he was saying like Trevor Siemian hasn't taken a snap since 2017. People were responding back to him and say, it doesn't matter. He's better than Zach Wilson. I was like, huh?
How do you know? How do you know if he hasn't played a meaningful snap since 2017? Now,
like, I was incensed. Okay. I was incensed because like as much as I want Zach Wilson out of there, and big Jet fan here on the record, I've said it many times, so that people don't think, oh, well, he's jumping on the wagon for the Jets. You can't tell me a guy who hasn't started meaningful games, or any games of that matter, since 2017 is better than Zach Wilson. Yes, I'm on the record to say that you can't, not anyone is better than Zach Wilson.
Right. And then who knows, with the Jets' luck, imagine Trevor Siemian gets hurt during, if he takes over as the starter, and he gets hurt in whatever first game he starts.
Oh, so Tim Boyle doesn't get a chance. Oh, that's sarcasm, folks.
Hey, remember when the Jets were starting a quarterback with the last name of Fails?
That sounds about right. But
but you know what? Once again, you were spending all this money. If the Jets are spending all this money, you're telling me you couldn't have given $5-6 million to Mike White to be a meaningful backup?
You could back me up. I've screamed from the mountaintops forever saying they should have brought back Mike White.
Well, even if not Mike White, just somebody to be a meaningful quarterback. I don't care, Mike White, Gabbert, Tyrod Taylor, somebody who could actually be a meaningful backup quarterback in the NFL.
You want to know where they majorly fucked up? It was with Derek Carr. That's where they fucked up. And
Derek Carr's now also hurt.
No, but put that aside because you don't know if that's going to happen at the time. But they messed that one up big time. They could have had Derek Carr in here. I still think over the years, first of all, Derek Carr is younger. And 2, I don't think it would have been as much pressure as people made it out to be because he has some experience. With different, who was he with originally? Now I can't even remember. Derek Carr was with
the Raiders.
Before the Raiders?
No, I said the Raiders.
No, but didn't he get traded to the Raiders, or was that his original organization?
I could have sworn that was his original organization. Don't have me second guessing myself.
No, I don't. No, I'm not second guessing. I just don't remember.
You keep talking. I'll look it up.
But my point is, he was a much better option. In my opinion.
Raiders were his original organization. They drafted him in 2014.
Okay, got it. And so I think that would have been a much better option. He fits that game a lot better. He also can throw the football, unlike Zach Wilson. You notice during the Jet games, they don't trust him on 3rd and long to get the first down. Do you know what they do every time? They do a pin. They do a pin down each time on 3rd down, basically not going for it.
Yeah. Well, I forget who they were interviewing about the Chiefs-Jets game coming up, and they were talking about the strategy that the Jets are going to do. And there was a Chiefs person, one of the players who laughed and said, "Well, we expect them to run the football because they can't trust Zach Wilson." Number one, they can't trust Zach Wilson. Number two, even if they could trust Zach Wilson, your offensive line is like a set of bowling pins, and the defensive line of the other team are the bowling balls.
I mean, and the sick part is that the defense of the Chiefs is not good by any means. So this would have been the week. Like if you had Aaron Rodgers, you were healthy, you might have had a chance.
You would have been competitive. I don't think you would have won, but you would have been competitive. This would have been a fun game.
I think it would have been competitive all the way to the fourth quarter. I don't think they would have won. Patrick Mahomes always finds a way to win in the fourth quarter. But now with Dwayne Brown on the IR and moving Becton over to another position that he hasn't played. I always love when teams do that, where, let's just move him over. He'll be fine.
Mekhi Becton hasn't had his struggles enough, I guess.
Yeah, really. So, you know what? I'm on Namath's side here, like for trashing Wilson, because, again, that was the last time they won a Super Bowl with Namath.
I'd say the only solace that can come is that the Jets are not the only ones who, and I talked about this the last 2 weeks, whose 2021 quarterback draft pick has massively struggled. And the worst part is, Nick, the sick part, I don't even think Zach Wilson's the worst of that bunch when you consider what Trey Lance's NFL career has been.
How about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? No.
You know what? He's probably happier in Dallas anyway.
Yeah, but you know what? Jerry Jones isn't happy. How did we lose to the goddamn Cardinals? Dak?
I'm still laughing at that.
I know that was only your first pick this season, but I'm still going to put the blame on you.
I'm still laughing over the fact that they lost to the worst team in the NFL.
And I'm still laughing that the Broncos got blown out by the Dolphins 70-20. But that is for tomorrow with Football Friday.
Yeah.
All right. In other news, some quick headlines to go through. We talked about Derek Carr getting hurt. Well, it's injury central with the quarterbacks at this point with the NFL. So I think it's pretty clear. You know what? I got to give credit to the Bengals because the defense showed up. They managed to help the Broncos to a 19-16 victory over the Rams on Monday Night Football. And you know what? I disrespected the Bengals one time, and I already get crow in my mouth. But it's pretty clear. It is still pretty clear, like you and I have talked about, that Joe Burrow is not 100% healthy.
Yeah, and on top of that, people are like in my mentions and like in our network mentions, well, this one fell flat. No, it didn't. It didn't fall flat. They got lucky and won.
I think he's still banged up. And the sick part is, unlike what you and Johnny say, I think the Bengals still had the potential to be the Bengals that we know. It's just a matter of, without Joe Burrow being 100%, they can't be that Bengals that, unless the defense showed up in the same manner every week, like they showed up against the Rams, which I don't think is going to happen.
By the way, Stafford threw that game away. Quite literally threw that game away multiple times, with multiple picks. And then they got the ball back quite a few times. And they still didn't win.
And obviously, we talked about Derek Carr leaving the game against the Packers. And the Saints ended up losing that game after Jameis Winston comes in. And I don't know, the way he fell on his arm, I think they may be, unfortunately, sticking with Jameis for a little while.
I think it was a shoulder contusion. I think he was holding the shoulder when he got up.
Yeah, but still, he's going to have to sit out for some time.
That's going to be at least 2 or 3 weeks, I would think, at least.
At minimum. Raiders and their new quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, Garoppolo passed his physical, and now he, after all the concerns with the offseason, but now he's in the concussion protocol.
Yeah, so that game was last Sunday Night Football, right? Or was that Monday Night Football? It was Sunday night.
Raiders game was Sunday night.
That was Steelers Raiders. Yeah.
Yeah.
That game was back and forth all night.
And then the Raiders absolutely blowing it. They're fourth down, time running out, and they kick a field goal instead of going for it when they're in the red zone.
That's 4-down territory. How are you kicking a field goal there? I don't understand that.
Genius, McDaniels! Genius!
He should be fired. Like the Belichick coaching tree just does not work.
And then two of the rookies from this year, Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young, are both hurt.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Anthony Richardson is basically a Tim Tebow on steroids, just taking off from the pocket and hoping he doesn't get hurt or injured. Or better yet, he's more like Lamar, where Lamar likes to take out of the pocket, and Lamar is going to get hit hard every single time. Same thing with Anthony Richardson. He likes to use his feet. He's a mobile quarterback, and it came back to bite him. And now we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so a whole bunch of quarterback injuries, and it's going to be interesting to see. You know, you got Gardner Minshew and Andy Dalton now leading Indianapolis and Carolina, respectively, which, by the way, shout out Gardner Minshew for pulling the Dan Orlovsky and still somehow coming out with the victory because the Ravens just... and the Ravens injury list is like... as Tree said, a all-pro roster. So I told you so. I told you that the Ravens were pretty overrated.
By the way, originally the Colts were the betting favorite as of yesterday. Now it is flipped to the Rams.
Not surprised.
About damn time.
All right. Also in other news, the Commanders are being sued. Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute here. They are being sued by a group that is called the Native American Guardians Association. And this organization, trying to get the story up, but this organization is pushing for the Commanders to go back to the Redskins name. Yes, not to protest anything that they have done or Dan Snyder has done about, with the Redskins and the previous name of the Redskins in the past, how people wanted that removed. No, they wanted to go back to Redskins. So they are now suing. They are now suing the Commanders for defamation of character, which sometimes can be a little hard to prove. But there's an official statement there is actually an official statement from the lawsuit. As the self-proclaimed voice of Native Americans everywhere, NCIA and the Commanders did warn and attack NAGA's integrity. They silenced over 90% of Native Americans who disagree with them. They also silenced Americans, basically implying that there are people who want the Redskin name back, which I know there are people out there who want the Redskin name back, but you have the pressures there about the name, and it wasn't helped when with all the how do we put this?
Popham circumstance?
No, not Popham circumstance. Let's call it douchebaggery that Dan Snyder brought with him.
But wait a second. Okay. Let's take a step back for a second. Okay, so you sued, you caused public interrogation, you had news outlets and national news media going after the Washington franchise for being called the Redskins because it was offensive to Native Americans. Now, you have the Native American Guardians Association wanting to put it back.
Because you have different organizations who are saying, they're being disrespectful. And no, I can't find the official statement that I read to you on Monday night about how their logo is this old historical chief. And
Chief Wahoo.
And they pay respect to that chief every time they take the field, and it's time to bring
it back. But they said it was offensive. That's why they got rid of it.
That's what another group said, but this group wants it different.
Make up your mind, damn it!
It's different groups, Nick. It's not about making up the mind. It's different groups having different desires.
Screw your desires!
Well, you know what? I blame all of this on Dan Snyder because he and his, like I said, douchebaggery caused all this crap with the Commanders that that the new ownership will have to, like I said, it's going to take time for new ownership to deal with this mess, Josh Harris and company.
This will not end well. I mean, just put this on the ticker board where you draw the lines. You with the chalkboard. You're just counting everything.
This lawsuit's not standing. The lawsuit's a definition of character.
You know how many lawsuits we've talked about over the years with athletes or owners and defamation of characters? How many have won? 0.
Right. Let's get off of that. We got Thursday Night Football coming up later tonight. It's Lions-Packers, an NFC North battle out in Lambeau. The Lions having a decent kind of showing. Well, let's be real. These are the only 2 teams in the NFC North that have wins on them. Vikings 0-3, Bears 0-3. Both of them at risk of going 0-4, depending on their matchups, because the Vikings and the Bears are both 0-3, and they're both facing 0-3 teams this week.
The Bears are facing Broncos country. Let's ride.
Now, I would want to pick against Broncos country. Let's ride after their performance. The problem is the Bears are just having a week from hell from Alan Williams and all that controversy that's still all being sorted out. The fact that their equipment ended up getting $100,000 in equipment was stolen from Soldier Field.
That sounds about right.
It's 2 dumpster fires that are facing off. And then the Vikings, I'm so pissed off about how that game against the Chargers ended. If they lose to Andy Dalton and the Panthers, I'm going to
say a few words right now. Spike the damn football! Seriously!
Here's my question, Jets fan, because I forgot to mention this before. Are you for trading your first-round pick that you saved from Aaron Rodgers to get Kirk Cousins?
Yes.
If the Vikes fall 0-4.
Yes. 150%. Yes. This is not even a question in my mind.
Even though with a really bad season, you could use that first-round pick on one of the young quarterbacks coming out.
I don't think they're going to be bad enough to get down to those higher picks. That's the problem. They're going to accidentally win games. Some of these games.
Of course.
And you have Arizona. Who else do we have at the bottom? The Raiders. Chicago. I mean, those teams are bad.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears already have 2 first rounders already due to the Panthers trade.
Right.
So the Panthers are going to get Drake or one of those other quarterbacks. The Jets are not going to be bad enough to get to that level. And they already said they want Aaron Rodgers back for next season.
Well, it was a 2-year deal, if I wasn't mistaken.
That's true. You're right. But they already said we're committed to Aaron Rodgers for next year, which I don't understand how you could be. But
I mean, I kind of get it because of all the pomp and circumstance of his arrival. I guess you're going to have to look at that 2025 draft class and see any quarterbacks that are coming out, because obviously Rodgers, I assume, will retire by that point. Wilson will be gone. So I guess that's the strategy. Okay, but we're getting off track. Thursday Night Football here, Lions versus Packers. I actually understand why the Lions are the favorite despite being on the road, and that's because they have a lot of momentum on their side. They have performed, I would say, pretty well to the standard that I have set. The Packers, they are 2-1. The Lions are 2-1. Like I said, the only teams that actually have wins in the NFC North. So, Nick, this game is an early momentum swinger. Whoever wins is going to be in control of the division very early on.
Yeah, I mean, so the Packers, I'm just looking at the Packers' schedule. They won at Chicago. That's not a surprise. They won at Atlanta. They lost at Atlanta, excuse me.
They had the lead for most of it, and then they choked it in the fourth quarter.
And then they beat New Orleans, all because of a missed field goal by the Saints. So,
and then the Lions, they pulled off the upset on opening night over the Chiefs. They lost a really competitive, high-scoring game to the Seahawks, and then they beat the Falcons. So honestly, I understand the sentiment of giving the Lions as the favorite. And, I know there's a lot of questions about him. I know Jordan Love has done a very good job. But, I mean, there's all these question marks about the Packers because, once again, who knows if you're going to have Christian Watson? Who knows if you're going to have Aaron Jones? And and maybe I'm just talking for the fantasy end, but A.J. Dillon has been a mess. He and Jones would always work in tandem, and one would always, if one wasn't out, the other would hold up the end of the bargain. A.J. Dillon has not done that this year. He has flopped pretty hard so far.
I mean, the one positive I can give is I think Jordan Love was leading in quarterback percentage, I think is what they said.
That is the other thing, is he is connecting with his receivers. He is performing admirably. But you know what?
And that's without Watson, by the way.
Exactly. But you know what? Jared Goff is looking back to 2018, 2019 form with the Lions. And you know what? Even though Swift is gone, you still have some, and even though Swift is gone, you still have some pretty solid production on the offensive end. The defense playing out of its mind. Did Aiden Hutchinson get hurt? I remember Aiden Hutchinson getting hurt in the game.
Yes,
but is he hurt, or was it just a bang up?
I don't know, but I see the reports here that the Packers are optimistic. This is from Rob Demoski, for Packers Nation reporter for ESPN, saying that the Packers are optimistic Jones and Watson to play Thursday.
Okay. And Aiden Hutchinson, I'm not seeing any news report about him and potential injury. I am seeing that he was named for the second time, named NFC Defensive Player of the Year for his performance this week.
Right. Again, this is not a clear-cut game, in my opinion. Like, I don't think one team is going to blow out the other in this game.
This is going to be one of those really competitive divisional games, which, like I said, especially when you consider whoever wins is going to have the momentum for the division, very early on in this season. I think this is great for Thursday Night Football, because Thursday Night Football years past has had the reputation of, some pretty bad games. And there are some pretty bad games that are coming up. So count the blessings of this game. This should be fun. Coin flip. Despite Lambeau being Lambeau, I'm going to take the money on this one. I think the Lions get the job done. I think they got what it takes. I think they've had a better 3 weeks than the Packers, and I think that their momentum will continue on. Plus, unlike one hitting for the cycle host, I am confident. And despite the fact that the Lions are a Viking rival, I am pretty confident that this team will go places this season. So you know what? I take the money.
Yeah, so I've already talked about this. Like, I decided to have some fun this year and play on DraftKings. That's the book we've been using for Football Friday, and we use it for our Thursday night picks and stuff. And I already have a bet in on this game, and I think I have the Packers plus 1.5. Jordan Love has looked good, even though they're 2-1. They definitely could have won in Atlanta. They could be 3-0 right now. Is this the home opener at Lambeau?
Packers?
Or was that the home? Was New Orleans the home opener?
I could have sworn New Orleans was. I know they've been on the road. Oh, the New Orleans one, was the home opener. The Bears one, they were on the road. The Falcons one, they were on the road. Yeah, the Saints was the home opener. So this is game 2.
I never thought I would say these words, but I'm actually going to ride the Jordan Love momentum for a change. I actually think that
going upset city.
I'm going upset city. As I said, Packers plus 1.5. If Watson plays, that opens up the field even more. He's a direct threat target. If Jones plays, that opens up the field even more for the Packers in the running game, which will lead the receivers to be open more. Yeah, I'm taking the Packers plus 1.5, and I think they're going to win somehow. I don't think it's going to be perfect by any means. They only have to win by 2 points.
Oh no, like you said, this is going to be a really competitive game. This is going to be like one of those 2 or 3 point games.
Yeah, so I think they'll win by like a field goal. That's usually how it goes, and we'll see what happens.
All right. So that's going to do it for this edition of Empty the Bench. So make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified of everything here at the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure to follow us across social media accounts, Facebook, X, Instagram, at ETB Sports. Follow the network on social media at ETB Network on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure to subscribe here on youtube.com/ETB Network. Just past 550 subscribers, continuing to climb. Thank you all so much for your support. Of course, check us out on our audio-only platforms, Acast and Spotify and all that. And if you are listening on those audio-only platforms, come over to youtube.com/ETB Network, our video feed, and hit that subscribe button like we talked about. Go to etbpodcast.com for all content and information about the network, including blogs from some of our hosts and some other ETB Network personalities. You can follow Nick and I on our own personal social medias on our little name tags on here. For those of you who are on audio, that would be at Thomas J. Albano, at Morgasen Radio. And yeah, that is going to do it for this edition of Empty the Bench. So thank you for tuning in to episode number 202, and we'll see you next week for 203. For Nick, I'm Tom. Take care, everyone.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.